Welcome to the 30-second drill. Today, we are doing something different. We are going through our personal top 10 teams and top 10 quarterbacks. I'm sure to say some things that most people don't agree with, and Shane Campbell will be not basic, like the basic bitch that he is. How you doing, buddy?
After that intro, I'm doing amazing. Thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, mate. And in that spirit, we'll start with my top 10 list of quarterbacks currently, so then you can slander me. I'm
My
going to
favourite
start with
thing.
number one. Is Patrick Mahomes. I would take him over any quarterback in any situation in the league. I don't think I have to justify that too hard. Number two, Jalen Hurts. The dude just wins. He gets it done no matter what the situation. Number three, based on heavily skewed by this year, is Lamar Jackson. I'm starting to trust that guy more and more. I do want to see him do it more in playoffs, but from what I've seen, I trust the guy. Number four, he's out for the year, but I think he probably would have been third if he stayed fit. It's Joe Burrow, Joe Cool. I'd put him in just about any situation. I reckon he gets it done. I still am fond of Trevor Lawrence, who I've put at five. I reckon he's being a bit of a game manager, and I expect to see him kind of explode in this run home. But a lot of that might be due to expectations and what I think of him more so than who he is. But that's where I have him. Number six is the guy who just lost to him on the weekend, which is CJ Stroud. Love that dude. He's looking exceptional, and I could go into the Panthers as I normally do, but I won't. Number seven is Justin Herbert, who is held back by his coaching. I think with some form of adequate or even average coaching, he would be in the top three quarterbacks. Number eight is Josh Allen, who is able to be Superman at times, but I can't ignore the times when he's just not even Clark Kent and he just sucks. Number nine for me is probably the next two are real game managers for me that just get the situation and get it to the right people at the right time, which is Tua. And number 10 is Purdy. Missing out just is Dak Prescott. I could not have him in my top 10 because I still look at that guy and think of the quarterback draw. But anyway, that's my top 10, mate. What are your thoughts?
So you left Dak out on a play from 2 years ago.
Not just a play from 2 years ago, mate. I left
Um,
Dak out because he just doesn't get it done. They don't beat anyone of significance.
well, yeah, well, maybe there was a bit of we weren't 100% aligned on what we were picking from. So I chose mine based on what I've seen this year, and then I used
Sure.
resumes to do tiebreakers. I just disqualified anyone who's out for the season. So Burrow would have been high for me, but he's out for the year. So I didn't even bother with that.
That's fair. You don't like Joe Burrow. We get it, mate.
Where's your one, mate? Where's your little this
I
thing?
think I actually purchased that one.
Yeah, well, I have it.
You thief.
That's how much I like him. I'll steal your merchandise. So Mahomes hurts Lamar. It's hard to disagree with your overall list, except I think Dak needs to be in there. I've got him very high up. I'll get to mine. I'll do mine, then we'll discuss.
Because it
Compare
sounds like we're going to discuss one player. So, yeah.
mainly, but then we'll go through it. So you had Mahomes first. I had Hurts on top. As I said, I went mainly off this year as opposed to overall. If it was career achievements and everything else, I would obviously pick Mahomes. But as of right now, I've got Hurts at number one, Mahomes two. I have Dak number three, which we'll discuss soon. Lamar at four, Stroud at five. I've got Tua at six, Josh Allen's at seven, Herbert at eight. Got Purdy at nine. Lawrence just made the cut at 10. Goff was the 11th. He was the one who just missed out.
Okay. So I'm going to fire a few questions at you about Dak.
Go for it.
If I were to remove Dak from the Cowboys
Yep.
and put Lamar Jackson in,
Yeah.
would the Cowboys be better?
Yeah, I would think they would be better.
Okay, if I were to remove Dak again and put CJ Stroud in,
I don't know. I don't know. I would say Lamar would
Tua,
be just because of the way
Would Josh Allen be better at the Cowboys than Dak?
if he cuts back on his interceptions and turnovers, yeah. But
Herbert?
Dak protects the ball.
Yeah.
Dak only has 6 turnovers for the whole year. I think that's equal lowest out of every QB.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, that matters. Like, you reduce your
was gonna
turnovers, you reduce you're not putting your defense on a short field, you reduce the amount of easy points the other team gets. Like, that matters.
Are they a run first offense?
I think Mike McCarthy wants them to be, but he likes to abandon the run.
So as for Dak and his interceptions,
Yep. It's around
he's got
6.
six.
Yep.
Six.
Yep.
So CJ Stroud has 5. Lamar Jackson has 5. You got Herbert and Brock Purdy have 6,
Yep.
aligned with Dak Prescott.
I also...
No point going further. Dak has the most touchdowns out of those guys.
So I also looked at fumbles lost as well, so total turnovers, because I think that matters. So
Yeah,
as far as total turnovers go, Dak is on 6. So Stroud's also on 6 because he's lost 1 fumble. Herbert and Purdy are also on 6. Like, that's fumbles and interceptions. I think that matters a lot. And we'll get into that a little bit later with Tua if we discuss him.
If I ran the Dallas Cowboys, which would mean I'd obviously age and have a lot more substantial wealth, and you told me that you could remove Dak and put in Lamar, Stroud, Allen, Herbert, Purdy, Tua, Lawrence, I'd take that every day.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure a lot of teams, if you could just swap in and out of quarterbacks, there's a lot of that would if...
I don't think there's as many from the top 10 list. Like, everyone you've got below Dak.
Yeah.
If I was the Dallas Cowboys, except for maybe Tua,
Yeah.
I'd put in over Dak.
I wouldn't... Look, if we're ruling him definitely out, I would not put Purdy in over Dak, just because I think he's got the Avengers and the perfect team to still allow a Mr. Irrelevant to succeed. But that's the side point. And like I said, while past history I used to do tiebreakers, this was my list of right now through 12 weeks who I think have been playing the best. And I think through 12 weeks this year, Dak has been playing the third best out of everyone else. Lamar just missed it.
I personally think you put Dak on the Texans, the Ravens, they are not as good. You put him on the Chargers, they're probably the same, but that's because of the coach. So,
yeah, I would agree with the Ravens as well, but the Ravens are built for Lamar, so that's a sort of hard team to discuss. If you put most other QBs on the Ravens, they're not going to be as good because Ravens specifically have built their...
He's a unicorn though, Lamar. So
that's what I mean. So like Mahomes is probably the only QB you could comfortably put on the Ravens and say they're not going to have a drop off. That's my opinion. Just because I think Mahomes would make it work anyway. But any of the other 31 QBs...
I think you could put Jalen Hurts in the Ravens.
Okay. Well, I had him top. So that's fair. Okay, there's another one. But just because he's a running QB. Like any other QBs, I don't think you would... You could take Lamar out and it'd be...
I think what's going to happen, and this is obviously a big...
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a track record that proves this is going to happen. However the Cowboys finish the season, they'll most likely be second in their division, and they'll most likely get the Saints or someone crap.
Yeah, Saints or Falcons. They'll get the NFC South.
And they should win that, and then they'll lose.
Yeah, so then they'll get... If you assume that all the... If you assume the second seed beats the 7th and the third seed beats the 6th, then Dallas is going to have to play Philly the week after.
Yeah,
but that's if we're talking about teams. I have Philly above them.
This is where I'm heading with it, and where I'm heading is they'll lose in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and then we'll go, but that's McCarthy's fault that they lost in the playoffs, and it won't be Dak's fault, and it just never seems to be Dak's fault. Like Dak gets the credit, but he doesn't get the blame.
I think Dak gets a lot of the blame when he doesn't play well. I think you get boosted up higher when you play well for Dallas, and you also get brought down lower than you should when you play for Dallas. I think last year when he was playing horrendous, he copped a lot of flack. But I just want to double back to one thing you said.
Sure.
The main reason, or I know you're probably being a little facetious, when you said you left Dak off was because of that quarterback run. So you've just said, so McCarthy gets the blame when they lose, and you've just blamed the reason that they lost on a McCarthy play call. So are you keeping Dak off because his coach and the situations they lose?
That play, firstly, if you actually look at how that play was supposed to be done, Dak ran too far.
I agree. Yes, I 100% agree with that.
It was a stupid play call.
Yes,
so that's done by the coach.
Yep.
And then the quarterback executed it poorly.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
And that quarterback who executed it poorly is supposed to be one of the supreme game managers. And according to your list, Hurts and Mahomes are something out of this world almost. Dak is up there for his game management abilities, and in the biggest spot in his career, he forgot about game management. So his strength became his weakness in his biggest moment.
I don't put Dak in the game manager basket anymore. I did for his first 4 or 5 years. I think.
So what is he? A supreme thrower?
I think he's a great quarterback this year. I'm not saying career-wise. I'm not putting him in the Hall of Fame or anything like that. I think from week 1 this year through till now, he has 6 turnovers, 23 touchdowns. I think he's ran in 2 more. I think he's had one awful game, and that was the 49ers game. When they lost to the Cardinals, I don't think he was the reason they lost. Yeah, but also this was probably one of the hardest years to do this list because there hasn't been a great deal of standout players. And I just
So one of your big like, did you look at Russell Wilson for protecting the ball?
He was lower, but because also while they're winning, I would say Russell is much more of a game manager this year than Dak has been. Mm-hmm. I think he's only being allowed to throw the ball 20 to 25 times a game, which that's all they need to do, and that's fine. And he makes the big throw when he needs to, and that's great. And that's all you can do. But I think that, I just think that Dak has been good enough to be in this list, and on mine is third. I think not having him in the top 10 is a bit ridiculous in my opinion. But you had him at 11, didn't you?
I had him at 11.
Yeah, and if you take Burrow, who's injured
If you take Burrow out, he's 10th.
Yeah.
You can say it's ridiculous, but, well, to be honest, fuck you. No, one of my main things is if I have that side. So if I have Kansas City, would I take Hurts over Mahomes? If I have Philly, would I take Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow over Hurts? And that was my tiebreaker. Okay. If I have that side right now, would I take this quarterback over that quarterback?
Yeah.
And look, if I could see there are smarter people than me that run NFL teams, which may surprise you, Shane. If I ran the Dolphins, if I ran the 49ers, I can see them being like, yeah, I'd prefer Dak over my quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't see Kansas City, Philly, Baltimore, Cincy, Jacksonville, Houston, Chargers, Buffalo picking Dak over any of those guys.
Yeah, that's it. I agree with that.
I think they're all better throwers. I think I'm not going to say Joe Burrow is a better runner. I think Joe Burrow is, in terms of throwing and that, what do you call it? Just mental ability. I think he's probably one of the best.
Yep.
As far as Dak is concerned, as I said on our podcast last week, in 6 weeks' time, people are even going to be like, oh yeah, that's why their biggest win came against the 4-7 Chargers and they won by 3 points. Or they're going to be like, I'm going to be like, well, shit, Dak is good. So is McCarthy.
Or if it is that case and we do this again in 6 weeks, things will change. Like I've done it through 12 weeks, and that's what I was under the assumption we were doing. We're basing it off the 12 weeks of play.
Well, and what do assumptions do, Mr. Shane?
This is make an ass out of you.
And me. Wait.
Exactly. This is just a bit asinine. We're going to do it anyway. If you were to pick MVPs, just quarterbacks, is your top 5 going to be your 5 in order, less Joe Burrow? Because mine would be...
For this season?
Yes, because mine would be Hurts, Mahomes, and Dak in that order. If I was to pick MVPs right now, just quarterbacks. Because I would have Myles Garrett up there and a few others.
So you wouldn't have Tua or Purdy up there?
They'd be
You
up.
just said, hang on, you just said quarterbacks and then you threw in Miles Garrett.
No, I said I would have them if I was doing a full total league vote. But if it's just a quarterback vote for MVP,
Yep.
I would have Hurts, Mahomes, and then Dak. And then
So
I'd put
you-
Lamar. And then if you want to go down the list, we'll go down the list. I would have
So you wouldn't have Tua or Purdy
I would have
anywhere near Dak.
I would have Tua at 5. I'd put him ahead of Stroud. Purdy could probably go up above Stroud too. I just think Stroud's been a better quarterback this year than Purdy has. But if we're doing MVP, then
I
it
think
would
it's
shuffle
one
a
of
little.
those things like, what if the MVP was the most valuable?
Yeah.
It actually changes it. But if you're going just based on quarterback for this season, I would probably have him fourth or fifth.
Dak.
I'd have him behind Lamar Jackson.
So would you
'Cause-
have in either order Hurts, Mahomes, then Lamar? And
I'd
then
have
Dak?
Hurts ahead of Mahomes this season
Yeah.
for sure. I'd have Hurts. I'd actually probably have Hurts, then Lamar, then Mahomes.
Okay, and then Dak.
Yeah, Dak.
The only reason I would have Dak ahead of Stroud is because Stroud, for the first 2 to 3 games, they really managed him. And I think when you take 12 games, 2 to 3 games of that matters. It's a quarter of the season.
Yeah,
And
no,
I just think
but
those,
we never do that when we anoint Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen MVPs and Super Bowl favorites, but we do it for every single other team, every single other quarterback, and every single other situation.
Well, when we anoint Josh Allen the MVP, it's before week 1, and he's on the
and
same.
then we drop off him, and then after week 4, we do it and we say we're just going to ignore week 1.
Of course we do.
I know how
Everyone
it
gets-
works.
Everyone gets a
There's
bad
all
game.
sorts of caveats for the Bills and Josh Allen. There's always an asterisk.
100%. But he made the list.
No, I would probably go Purdy then Dak.
Yeah, okay. No, that's all right. I just wanted to see where you would have him. 'Cause if you had have said you wouldn't even have him in your top 10 of quarterbacks, I think then
No.
there's just a lot of bias showing.
Nah, I have a lot of bias. I am well aware of that. I'm not a complete dumbass.
It's debatable. And I think maybe we both went into this with different parameters because I purely just tried to use just this year. And I think you're using a bit of career in it.
Yeah, I'm using them.
Yeah. And that's
whole
fair.
thing.
I just wanted.
But-
I was just doing it this year, and
So my reasoning for Purdy is like, as much as you like, they got the Avengers. It's like, yeah, but Joe Burrow's got an outstanding receiving core.
yeah,
It's phenomenal.
yep,
So if you discredit Purdy, you then have to look at everyone's receiving core, which includes Mahomes, whose receiving core is absolute trash compared to what Jalen Hurts has. Jalen Hurts has 2 great receivers and a great running back.
yeah.
So does it not elevate Mahomes?
I think it does elevate Mahomes, and that's why I've got him second.
And
That's why he's
the
much
losses
that's why
that
higher than
brought-
Purdy.
The losses Purdy's had is like, one was a field goal when he played like crap. They missed it,
Yeah,
which happens. Another one, he had a concussion. And
Allegedly.
another one was when the Bengals were rolling.
yeah,
Now, I'm not going to say so he could be, because he's not. He is what it is. But the 49ers have beaten far better teams than the Dallas Cowboys.
yes. But I'm also not using this as a whole team ranking. I'm using
Okay.
I'm using this as an eye test, and I don't want to get into the whole. We can get into the whole Purdy thing because no one's listening by now anyway. So with the Purdy thing, and I think this matters. Like when you have an amazing defense, you probably go out there thinking, I only need 21 points. You know, I'm not going to get into a shootout. And Purdy doesn't necessarily have to play from behind. And I'm not penalising for something that he hasn't had to do. I
I was
just,
going to say, well,
No.
Zach Wilson's got a pretty good defense, mate.
yeah, well, his defense go out there under the assumption of we need to keep them to 3 or we're going to lose.
That's generous.
So, yeah, it's just the way I look at it. With Purdy, I think when you're stacked on offense and defense, like Mahomes, he probably goes out there just thinking, I only need to score 20, 21 and we're going to win, which is great because he's got shit receivers.
That's also what it is for Dak.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, but like we just brought that up why Purdy was down. I think 49ers defense is much better than Dallas's. So so they're going to get the ball in shorter field.
49ers roster's better than Dallas's.
Yeah,
I'm not going to argue that.
No, and we're not arguing teams, but when you have a better defense, you get the ball on shorter fields, you get more turnovers. It's easier for the defense to march down and score. Like if
It's
Cleveland,
easy for Purdy to go, I'm just going to take a chance here.
But I think he
Because there's a
has to
high
take
chance.
chances.
But there's a high chance, like, he's like, we'll just get it back 3 and out anyway.
Yeah, and then that's even less pressure on the quarterback. So I think
Yeah,
you're playing with easier.
and going into most drives, we don't need a score.
Yeah, or let me hand it off to Christian McCaffrey.
So yeah, that's why, like, you have Purdy higher than I do. So
I've got him at 9.
I have him at 10.
He
but
would be
yeah,
at 10 if I had Burrow.
I have Purdy and Dak. I'd take Purdy over Dak.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, that is probably influenced by the team. But what I've seen with Purdy, he does, like, and it's so easy to say it's just the team. But, like, Jimmy G had a very similar team last year.
Yeah.
Trey Lance,
Purdy's better than both of them.
Trey Lance never really got a shot, if we're being completely honest. He got injured. But
Yeah. Oh, he was on the
like,
roster for 3
we've
years. He had a
seen
shot to win the
versions
job.
of this 49ers side, and they just don't get it done. And I know they didn't get it done this year, and I truly believe they won't this year. Sorry, last year, and they won't get it done this year again. But I think they've got their guy. He's their best chance to win over the next few years, but they will have to pay him eventually, and that's when they'll.
I guess we'll see what they really think of him after this year. If they give him a full year and he can't get it done in playoffs, then maybe they will look elsewhere.
Maybe they'll get back.
Yeah, well, then they'd be much worse. So, as far as my list goes, like, if we're just drafting a franchise, I would take... These are people below him. Okay, I'd also take Hurts and Mahomes. I would take Lamar, Stroud, Tua, Allen, Herbert. I wouldn't take Purdy over him. I'd take Lawrence, and I'd have to consider
Who are we talking about here, sorry?
over Dak.
Okay, yeah.
I would take all of them over Dak if I'm starting a franchise. But
Sure.
But when doing this list, I
You saw this
considered
year.
12
That's
weeks. And I honestly think he's been
thought
the
of
third
this-
best quarterback this year.
I thought of this year. I thought of previous years, and if I were to plug and play quarterbacks. So we both did our list on a different parameters, which is why we're a 30-second drill and not a well thought out podcast.
Exactly right. If we were doing it over everything, considering everything, I would have Mahomes 1 and Burrow 2.
Yeah.
But Burrow's not on my list because he's out for the year.
I have Burrow 4 because of injury proneness.
Yeah.
I can't trust him to complete the season.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Well,
fair enough.
Let's move on to teams, because that's pretty straightforward.
Is there no one else
I'm
that you want
sure
to discuss, or are you happy to move on with that?
I'm happy to move on with the quarterbacks.
Okay.
It doesn't help that we did it under different parameters, but I think they're both justifiable.
Yeah.
You can kick off the teams because you will argue with me more, because I'm sure your top 10 teams is just the top 10 ranking.
I'm sure out of...
You're vanilla.
Well...
I'm cookies and cream.
Oh, do you mean like the league standings?
Yeah.
So let me bring up NFL.com and read out my lists. So I've got Philly at 1,
Yep.
Ravens at 2,
Yep.
49ers at 3,
Yep.
Chiefs at 4, Dallas...
The Chiefs are actually 3rd and the 49ers are 4th, according to ESPN. In
Ah.
case you wanted to change that.
Yeah, see, chopped chips in my vanilla. Dallas at 5, Detroit at 6, Jacksonville 7, Dolphins 8, Texans 9, and I've got the Broncos in at 10. Browns just missed out because of their quarterback problems. That's why I've left them out because DRT got a concussion, so I have no idea who's actually starting for them this week. Steelers I left out just because their offense has been absolutely inept, and Bills missed the cut, Vikings missed the cut.
And were you looking at this, how they've been and how they'll finish?
I considered what's happened this year. I didn't necessarily look into the next 6 games, but if I wasn't sure on a team, if they were both playing this week on a neutral field, who would I pick to win? So 49ers versus Chiefs, as of right now, I'd probably take 49ers on a neutral field.
Yep.
And that's why I had them just above them and the whole way down for that. Same as Dallas over Detroit. If there was in Detroit, I'd take Detroit. But on a neutral field, if I wasn't sure, I took... Yeah, that's how I did the tiebreaker. That's why Broncos got in over Browns. If Broncos played right now,
Sure.
they would beat the Browns. And I think they literally did last week, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
So that's the way I split the hairs. Like, I'd have Jacksonville to beat Dolphins. So that's why I had them 7 and 8.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
So push back, talk your shit.
All right. So the top 4,
Yep.
I'm not going to argue with.
So Philly, Ravens, 49ers, Chiefs.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't see how Dallas can be 5.
Have you got Dallas in your top 10?
No. They have literally not beaten a single team above 500 Their best win came against the Chargers, who are 4-7, and they're insipid. And they don't. They literally have some kind of guy who doesn't understand football at coach.
So I know we do a
But
lot of ifs and all that kind of stuff. If they win one of their next two games, because then they have Philly and who else is up? Oh, it's Buffalo. They're not above 500. But if they
Seattle and Philly.
okay, well,
Seattle
Seattle is 6-5, so if they beat Seattle, they're not above 500 either. So, but if they
beat Seattle, I'll give them a little bit of credit.
Okay. Well, so my main thing, I just want to jump in with that, not beating anyone above 500. So where have you got Detroit?
Where have we got Detroit?
They'd be like top 5 or 6, I imagine.
I think they're 5th. Yep.
Yeah. So, and I know we can do ifs and ands. They've beaten one team above 500, and they beat them by 1 point, and they had their second and third best player out. So it's just, if you just want to split hairs that way, like Detroit, they've been good, it's the best team they've had since the early 90s, but they also haven't been, like they lost to Seattle, who were above 500. They absolutely smashed to Baltimore, who were above 500.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, if the major criticism is they haven't beaten anyone above 500. Who have they lost to? They've lost to Philly. They've lost to Cardinals and 49ers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they've only played two teams that are above 500.
Yes, they've beaten the Giants twice, the Jets, the Patriots,
Jets beat Philly,
the Chargers and Rams, Panthers and Commanders.
Yeah. So
they have played. Dallas have beaten the bottom team, the Panthers. They lost to Cardinals, who are second from the bottom, third bottom in Patriots, fifth bottom in Washington, sixth bottom in Giants, seventh in Jets. Chargers are ninth. The Rams won, okay, but the Rams have started looking better.
Yeah.
They've not.
You can only beat who you. But it's not like they've lost to. It's not like we can just rule off the top 12 teams and they've lost to all of them.
Detroit actually beat the Falcons when the Falcons were going okay, which was what were they? They were 2-0. I think the Falcons
2-0 or 2-1 or something like that.
Yep, and then the Bucks were good when Detroit beat them.
So if one of the teams that the Dallas have beat come good, we still just disregard that win.
If you anticipate that the Giants, Jets, Pats, Chargers, Panthers, or Commanders to come good, I have questions.
I do not anticipate any of that. It's one of those things, you're going to only beat who you play, and we'll find out a lot more.
So I'll take it back about the biggest win over the Chargers. The biggest win was over the Rams.
Sure. So obviously, look, if we do this again in 6 weeks, they could very well be first because they've got a massive run home. They've got Philly, they've got Seattle, Detroit.
They go Seahawks and Eagles at home.
Both above 500.
They go to Buffalo. They go to Miami. They have Lions at home, and then they go to Washington.
So everyone on that list, apart from Washington, are at or above 500.
Yes, and when they face the Bills, who knows? But you just the interesting games, the really interesting ones, are the next 4 because they face the Seahawks, who seem to be sputtering.
Yep.
The Eagles, who are a juggernaut. I think they split the Eagles last year.
I think before this one, Dak was like 4 straight against them. I'm not too sure because I don't think Hurts played the second one last year.
And then they literally face their carbon copy in the AFC, which is the Dolphins.
Okay. Do you have Dolphins on your list?
Don't think so.
Do your list, because I haven't heard your list.
I do have the Dolphins.
Okay.
Okay, so my list is I have Philly at 1, Chiefs at 2, Ravens at 3, 49ers, Detroit, Jacksonville, Denver, Texans, Dolphins, Browns.
Cool. So were you doing this considering the whole year, or are you doing like a 4-week, like last 4 weeks? What was your
what's happened and what I anticipate to happen?
Yeah. Okay. So mine was more of a snapshot at this moment, not anticipating what's happened. If I was anticipating.
Well, they have the league standings for what's happened, and I thought that'd be pretty boring to just go through the league standings.
But we're not doing league standings. Like if I got to do
no, you kind of are, buddy.
It's a power ranking. It's different than standings. You said Chiefs were 3rd. All right, so I'm just trying to think what else you said. So yeah, so their carbon copy Miami, you had 10th,
Ninth.
9th. So carbon copy. You were just so does that are they going to get anything out of that if they beat Miami, or
When
are
I
you just
say
going
the
to say
carbon
no?
copy, it's a team that they're the flat track bullies. The Dolphins, in my opinion, are better than the Cowboys because they are offensively skewed. The Cowboys are defensively skewed.
Yep.
I think the Dolphins would beat the Cowboys.
For a
The
team that's
Dolphins will also top their division.
for a team that
Dallas won't.
for Dallas who are defensively skewed, I think they've scored over 35 like 7 or 8 times.
Yeah, like we have talked about who they've played, mate.
You still have to score. Like Philly lost to the Jets. You can lose to anyone on any day. Like 49ers lost 3 in a row. Like it happens. You can lose. You have bad
I know.
games.
But
And
like
you can
with
only
the
beat who
draw
you
that
play.
Dallas have, to say that this 11 weeks, that is who they are, and just say they are going to win out because they are better than the Seahawks. Okay, they lose to Philly. They're better than Buffalo. They're better than the Dolphins. They're better than Detroit, and they're better than the Commanders. Do you really think they're going to go 5-1?
I'll give them 4-2, maybe. At
I don't
worst.
think they'll even go that good.
So let's say. So I think they'll beat Seattle. I think they'll win all their home. They'll probably lose to Philly at home. They'll beat Detroit at home. I think, my opinion, and I think they'll beat Washington. So that's at least 3. So we're looking at a team
they
that's
go
going
3 and
11
3.
and 6. And so if you're projecting, do you agree with that? They'll win those 3.
Yeah, I'm happy to go with that.
Okay, so you've got a team finishing 11 and 6, not in your top 10.
Yes.
Okay. Is everyone on your list going to make playoffs? I'm just trying to think. Cleveland or Houston may miss it, or Denver. So because all those 3 would have to be wild cards. And obviously 14 teams get in. You can't have 14 in your top 10. So 4 teams that make playoffs are going to miss out.
Yeah. Let me have a look. I'm pretty certain they got the Saints in the top 2. No.
If we were to do just off the top of your head, if we're going to do an NFC power ranking,
I think
so you've got
I think
Philly,
off the top of my head,
49ers,
I have
Detroit.
Sorry, hang on.
So you've got
off the top
7
of my
AFC
head-
teams.
Off the top of my head, Browns and Texans would have the same record as the Cowboys, and Dolphins would have a better record. But I would take the Texans over the Cowboys.
Okay.
Big time.
So you've only got 3 NFC teams in there. Are Detroit your 4th best NFC? Are Dallas your 4th best NFC team?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious if you were just going to keep rattling off more AFC teams before we got
No,
down
no,
there.
I think the AFC is better.
So they're 11th in your ranking.
I don't really have an 11th.
No, but like if they,
But sure.
or you're going to chuck a 8th AFC team in before you get to.
No, I was gonna put the Titans in.
Yeah. And then whoever's leading the NFC South because they're going to win a division.
Yeah, the Falcons and
And the Saints because they're still
like,
viable.
to be like it has to be even between the AFC
No, it
and
doesn't.
NFC. Like the NFC South, if anyone has any team from there in their top 15,
Yeah.
bloody hell.
No, I'm not saying it need to be even. I was just looking through your list and working out your NFC teams because I wanted to know if you would reel off 12 or 13 AFCs before you got to Dallas.
No.
So they would be. So they're your 4th best NFC team. So I've got them as my. If I've got my 3rd best NFC team, I've just got them as 5th overall.
Yeah, I have 7 teams in the AFC ahead of them.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was just wanted to see where you had them
Because
in the
and
NFC.
just answer these questions for me. Chiefs Dallas, neutral field, who you got?
Got Chiefs.
Ravens Dallas, neutral field, who you got?
I'd take Ravens.
Jags Dallas, neutral field.
I don't know. I'd have to think about that one.
Dolphins.
I'd probably take Dallas at the moment. Like Jags have been excellent the last 2 weeks, so that's why I'm a bit skewed. That's why Jacksonville aren't as high for me. The last 2 weeks they've been excellent, and even when they were
2-6.
winning, they weren't great. This
Yeah.
has just been a Dallas and Dak podcast.
Yeah, pretty much. Craig's gonna love it.
Yeah.
I don't trust them because of what I've seen from them.
Yeah. So Cleveland, Dallas on a neutral field. You taking Cleveland?
Yeah.
With no quarterback.
I didn't know that DRT got concussed.
But even if you did, you'd take the DRT starting Cleveland over Dallas.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just
I can't argue with your opinion. I can,
Yeah,
but
you can.
you're entitled to have it. I mean, how stupid
no.
it
I
makes you
think I
seem.
think the Browns as a whole team are better than the Cowboys
Yeah,
because I think people rate the Cowboys really high because of Micah Parsons and that side, and the Browns defense is just so much better.
it is much better, but
Hmm.
they've lost their like Chubb's out. They don't have a quarterback that anyone rates, and apart from Mari Cooper, I don't know. I might be forgetting some other people. Joku's like serviceable at tight end. Just explain to me why you would take Cleveland on a neutral venue over Dallas, and then we'll pick some shit out of your list, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, look, I reckon you've exposed a big hole.
Which is
I reckon you've exposed a big hole there.
Yeah.
Like, I should probably have Dallas at 10,
okay,
and Cleveland shouldn't be there.
sure.
But I don't like Dallas,
I can tell.
and I think they're very overrated, which has led for me to go the complete other way. But I would agree that I should have them ahead of Cleveland.
Yeah. So, and on a neutral field, you'd take Denver to beat Houston at the moment. Because look, that was my parameter. It didn't have to be yours.
No. It's a really good one because my thing is like the coaching makes the team, and for me, yeah, that's that. I'm taking Sean Payton over a lot.
Yeah, no, that's
Especially,
fair enough.
I can see him tweaking and tweaking and tweaking, and they keep getting better and better. Like 5 weeks ago, the Browns would have rolled them. My number 10, the Cleveland Browns, would have rolled them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can 100% admit I'm wrong, and I should have Dallas at 10,
Okay.
which makes more sense having Miami and based on my own arguments, Miami and Dallas at 9 and 10, and saying that offense is a bit better because Miami are highly ranked. But yeah, I have them at 9 because I just feel like they can be exposed.
Yeah.
So I will admit Dallas should be in my top 10.
Okay.
But I will still take Houston and Denver over Dolphins and Cowboys.
If because that's all based on neutral field. Do you have any underdogs there? If they were playing at home, you would take over someone ahead of them. So if Miami were at home to Houston, or if the 49ers were at home to Chiefs, would you have anyone lower on your list beating someone higher if there was a home field advantage?
I would have. So as in the lower ranked team having home field advantage, or the lower ranked team. Say it again, please.
So yes, pick. So Chiefs are at number 2. If they have home field, will they beat Philly? In your opinion? So
now, I don't think so.
No.
I think Philly would just about beat anyone right now.
Yeah, well, that's all I was sort of after. Like, if 49ers were at home, would you have them beating the Ravens? Or if Jags were at home, would they beat Detroit?
I think if the 49ers were... I think the Ravens, because of Lamar, it's a different thing. I think if Miami were at home, they could cause a lot of teams problems.
Yeah, so they could beat Texans, Jags, and Broncos potentially.
Yeah.
And Lions. Yeah.
And that's something, like, because of it being Miami, that's something that also doesn't help Dallas. Like, an indoor field it's just a level playing field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know Dallas kill it at home, but it is just it's a leveler. Like, there's nothing to compete in. Like, whereas if it doesn't happen, but like if Dallas had to go to Baltimore, if Dallas had to go to fucking Buffalo, is Dak going to be the same quarterback? Wait, Dallas is indoor, isn't it?
Yeah, Dallas is in the stadium.
It's an indoor stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, cool. That could have been very silly.
It is Miami.
Yeah,
cool.
With substantial heating.
All right. Well, I think we've covered a bit. Didn't talk. We really focused on just Dak and Dallas there for the majority of it, which is fine. So, just if this is a bit of an impromptu question, who have you got in your championship games, and then going to the Super Bowl?
Okay. For me, it's pretty straightforward. Hang on, I had it open. I have. It's not. I don't think I had it as. Yeah, I do. I just kind of have it as Baltimore and Kansas City and Philly and the 49ers, and I have a Super Bowl rematch, which I felt for like the last few weeks.
Yeah. And
What about you?
I've, I think it's going to be Philly. 49ers, I'm a bit, I don't know. I, I'm not convinced with the 49ers, but then when I look down to the rest of the NFC teams, I don't have the confidence in Detroit to go from not winning a playoff game in 30 years to then winning two.
I can't unsee what happened with the Green Bay Packers,
Yeah. So
and that is, yeah,
the Green Bay thing for me is just obviously it matters. But if you clean up those like three, Goff doesn't lose three fumbles. They don't lose.
that's
That's
true.
that's just, and I know you can say if this, if that, if that. Fumbles can be cleaned up.
I think he'll be better, but like
Yeah.
I think Detroit are maybe they need another year or so, maybe.
The secondary absolutely sucks. The TJ Gardner Johnson's coming back either this week or next, so that's going to help a lot. But yeah, Goff has 8 turnovers on the year, 6 in the last 2 weeks. So
One thing I could see happening is more in the AFC is if the Broncos really continue. They've won what, 5 in a row?
yes,
They're like the informed team in the AFC.
Yeah.
If they continue to roll, I could see them rolling quite deep into playoffs. I could see them coming up against the Baltimore Ravens and beating them.
I could see the Chiefs stumbling before the Ravens just because the Chiefs just aren't putting the points up.
That's true. I think if they get the 1 seed, the
Yeah.
Chiefs, it's a different story.
Yeah, it's got to win one
But-
game in the championship game.
Yeah, if they get the 1 seed, like they kind of just have to beat a team, say like the Texans or the Jags or something like that, and it's like, well, you can't. I can't see, as much as I like Stroud and D'Amico Ryans and Tank Dell, I can't see them going into Arrowhead in a playoff and beating the Chiefs.
I would imagine it's going to be the AFC. If Chiefs get the 1 seed, would imagine that Ravens going to get the 2, but Jags get the 3.
Yeah,
So it's going to
I
leave
would say
Dolphins.
so.
It's going to leave Dolphins with the 4. So then, if all favourites win week 1, it'll be Chiefs and Dolphins.
But if you have,
And we just
it
saw
depends
that.
who gets that 5 seed. If it's the Texans, if it's the Broncos, because the 7 seed is most likely going to be, it's Steelers, Browns, or Buffalo,
They'll lose to the 2 seed.
and the 2 seed is going to be the Ravens or the Chiefs,
Or the
and you
Jags.
can't see Steelers, Browns, or Buffalo beating any of those sides.
I think whoever the 2 seed was going to beat whoever the 7th seed is, and I think the same with 3 and 6. It's just going to be the 4 and 5.
Yeah, for me it depends depends who 5 and 6 is and who they're coming up against. Like if 5 is the Broncos and they're coming up against the Dolphins, I rate them a high chance to do something. If the Texans are 6 and they're up against the Jags, after what I've seen in 2 games against the Jags, I don't see why they couldn't beat them. But playoffs are different. Yeah, it's different.
You reckon if Denver and Miami played that 70-20 is not going to leave some psychological scarring?
No, I think it's going to fire up Denver and allow like a little bit of. It'll creep into Miami in a bad way, and it'll creep into Dallas Dallas. Can't stop talking about
Jesus.
Denver in a good way.
Yeah.
Like if you're the team that got 70 put up, you're not going to be like, oh shit. You're going to be like, we have to stop these Dolphins.
Yeah. Well done.
And like, if you're looking at the NFC, we've predicted from a long way out that it's going to be the Cowboys Saints. Then you potentially have like the 49ers could be up against who bloody
They'll have
knows. It could
Detroit.
be.
49ers will finish 2nd, and Detroit should finish 3rd. And then it should be Detroit.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking week 1. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I would think that.
Week 1, yeah. I think all the home teams will win week 1 except the Saints, except the NFC South.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So it's going to be Philly. I think it'll be Philly, Dallas, and then it's going to be 49ers, Detroit, the second week of the playoffs. And it just matters where it is. If 49ers drop one more, Detroit can get the 2 seed. If not,
yeah, Detroit have really hurt themselves with that loss against Green Bay. That is an absolute killer. With my playoff predictor, which is just so much fun, I have Detroit and 49ers finishing on the same amount of wins.
So
Right.
49ers.
I have Philly winning out. So
yeah, well, 49ers will get a tie break because of conference wins.
yeah, yep.
But yeah, well, we'll revisit this.
That means the Lions lose to your Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, fuck. Hey, they're 10th on your list.
They're like, what are they, second on yours?
They're 5th, but you've actually moved them up since we started this podcast. I haven't.
That's because you still think Derek Carr is immaculate. Like, we know how stubborn you are.
He was not in my top 12.
And we know how flexible I can be. That's right, I'm saying flexible.
Sure thing, mate. All right, or should we do this again in maybe a month?
Yeah, I reckon that sounds good because that'll be like 2-3 weeks out from playoffs, so that'll be good.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, mate.
Good. I'll have to speak to you for a month.
No sponsors?
For our weekly podcast. No sponsors for this one. No one was coming for Christmas.